Dentistry in General Radio Network presents DIG's official podcast with Dr. Bob D.
Join us at Digapalooza this November in Chicago, brought to you by Dentistry in General. This exclusive event features world-renowned speakers, leaders in their fields, delivering carefully selected topics that tackle the real challenges dentists face today. Held in the private halls of Gibson's Steakhouse, it's more than CE, it's a connection to a supportive dental community. Early bird pricing is live, but spots are limited and selling fast. Visit dentistryingeneral.com for more details.
In this episode,
let's say that you switch your practice management. We don't care. We'll work with the new one. Let's say you switch your AI company. We don't care. We'll work with the new one. It's just a mindset thing. We are here to support you. We're not here to drag you down. We convert just about everything on the market. Regardless of what system you have, very likely we convert it. I think right now we convert like 97+% of the market. We're going to convert your layouts. We're going to convert your teeth numbers. We're going to match the filters that you had in those systems so that you're not having to go back in and refilter all of your images again within our system. And so it really makes that process really seamless. It's a cloud-based system. What does that mean for you as a dentist? That means that you're not having to worry about how much storage is left on your server. That means you're not having to worry about backing up your own data. That means you're not having to worry about compliance and security and privacy and all of the other things that go along with hosting your own server.
Smart imaging for smarter practices, beyond hardware with Sota Cloud. Dr. Bob D. interviews Dustin Johnson from Sota Cloud Imaging.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Dustin Johnson of Sota Cloud Imaging. You're the co-founder and CTO, Dustin.
That's right.
I like Sota because Sota, to me, is as open as it gets, meaning that you guys are not tied to any device manufacturer or any types of devices.
Yeah, that's right. And, if you think about it, it's one of these things where at the onset of dental imaging as a software product, that software was being built by a bunch of hardware companies that were trying to sell you hardware. That was their goal. It was to lock you into their ecosystem with software that had all your patient records and only worked with their devices. We want to work with everybody, whether that's all the sensors, all the practice management systems, eventually all the AI companies. That is our goal. Companies that make other kinds of software using imaging software as a way to retain their customers. So we're seeing more and more practice management companies, for example, try their hands at building their own imaging software. Imaging is a sticky product because it's really a challenge as a dentist to change your imaging software, unless you're working with somebody like us who really knows what they're doing and can convert your data and everything else. And as a practice management company, or even more recently as like an AI company, where you have your customers on not only your core product, but also an imaging product, it's just that much more sticky and that much harder to give them the choice to move somewhere else. Our goal really there is to work, again, with everything, be completely open. Work with, you can, as a dentist, pick the sensor that you want to use. You can pick the pano that you want to use. You can pick the camera that you want to use. With our upcoming 3D module, you can pick the 3D system you want to use. You can pick the AI company you want to use. We want you to have choice. We want you to be able to pick the products that work the best for your practice and give you the most value. And that's really our mission.
Dustin, I want you to tell me a brief history of who you guys are. What makes Sota, right? I talked to a couple of people and sometimes they tell me, experience doesn't matter. But in this case, experience does matter. You need to know what dental imaging is before you can provide it to dentists. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah, Sota Cloud came about as a spinoff of a 30-year-old imaging company. And so Sota Imaging, which was originally Sota Precision Optics, actually started out as an optics manufacturer, worked with NASA and just a bunch of other different laboratories and industry partners building optical assemblies. And then eventually we got into the intraoral camera business and began working as an OEM manufacturer for quite a lot of the intraoral camera manufacturers that were in the industry at that time. So a lot of those cameras were being built in-house at Sota for many years. And over time, the Sota Imaging company became a real imaging company, built their own cameras instead of cameras for other folks. And that was the first dental product launched by Sota into the market. From there, Sota got into the intraoral sensor market and then started working on their own software. And legacy on-premise imaging software was released to market about 12 or 13 years ago by Sota Imaging. About 8 years ago now, I joined Sota Imaging. And at that time, we recognized really that the future was going to be quite a bit different in dentistry than it had been to that point when it came to the way that images were used and accessed. You start having companies in the cloud that are working to do API integrations for claims management. You start dental labs that are blowing up everywhere and offering new services that require access not just to 2D images, but the 3D data as well, your 3D scans and your CBCT data. And so the list goes on, but the writing was on the wall. Look, this is a fundamental, very important part of the way that dentistry is practiced. It's the ground truth data generated by you as a dentist during your clinical process, and it's the only ground truth data. And for us, at that point, we want to provide not only the ability for you as a dentist, as a provider, as a business person to work more closely with all of the companies that need access to that data in order to provide you service, but we also want to be able to give you, again, just speaking back to what we were talking about a minute ago, choice in the way that you acquire those images and everything else. And that was a pain actually that as an emerging imaging company with the on-prem product that we struggled with for years. And the reason that it's important that we had that history was because during that time, we built the relationships and built the integrations and established ourselves as somebody who could work with all of the different practice management companies, all of the different sensor companies, all of the different cameras and panos and everything else that were out there. Not only from a technical perspective, but from a people perspective and also from a customer support perspective. We know imaging inside and out because as an imaging software provider, for as many years as we have been now collectively, we've supported every device in the market. We've troubleshooted virtually every hardware manufacturer's devices extensively. And so when we're helping you as a customer of our imaging software, that you have that confidence, you can come to us and we're going to be able to help you instead of bouncing you around to 5 different vendors trying to figure out how to get things set up.
Yeah, I talk about this all the time, and it's a mistake I made myself back in the day. Hardware is not as important as software. Hardware is a commodity, right? You can pay for something that has expensive parts. You can pay for something that's $700 on eBay. The important thing is how you're going to integrate that with your systems. And there are a lot of these big companies that can definitely give you a nice picture with their own hardware, but throw something else at them purposely or not knowing how to do it. They can't really do that. Tell me why Sota is different and what are the things that makes you guys different than other imaging companies?
I think it starts from our motivation, right? It starts from our vision. We want to be the company that you use to work with everybody. And because that's one of our starting principles, that's one of the things that we just see as the future of dentistry. We have the right motivation to improve the way that we support you with all of these different devices, with all of these different companies, with all of these different kind of stakeholders in the imaging ecosystem. And because we have that vision from the outset, we're not shifting our kind of approach to the way that we work with our customers to the new market like some of these legacy players are, right? If you've been doing business and you have some momentum for the last 10 years as being a locked off proprietary, totally unwilling to work with other companies kind of system, it's hard to shift that perspective, right? Just as one example, if your sales team has been motivated to sell your sensors and your software for a long time and they're selling to that captive audience, it's a lot easier to go to those guys when you're the only player in the game that can work with that software. So as a company, if you try to change that paradigm, they're probably not going to be too kind to upper management about something like that. So it's just, there's momentum there that we don't have because from the outset, we wanted to be the big table that everybody can sit around when it comes to imaging.
Gotcha. What I want to bring up here is to clarify that Sota Cloud Imaging as a company can work with almost every device that's out there. And talk to me a little about, everybody claims they work with them, but talk to me a little about this direct integration versus Twain that the manufacturer gives you. What's the difference?
Yeah, so there's a few differences. So I think first we can maybe create some definitions around these things. So Twain is basically an interface. It's a third-party kind of piece of software that lives between the hardware and the software that's actually taking the images, okay? So what happens is you as the user, you click the capture button in the X-ray software, it talks to a Twain. The Twain says, hey, sensor, get ready for an X-ray. Sensor gets ready for an X-ray, tells the Twain that it's ready for an X-ray, and then now you as the user know what's going on. But the problem is that behind all of that, there's a bunch of different layers of challenges that you have to solve in order to make sure that what that sensor does can communicate with the software that's taking the image. That's what a Twain does. With a native integration, we talk directly to the sensor ourselves. And what that means is that you as a user, for example, a lot of Twains have pop-ups that interrupt your workflow and they sit on top of the imaging software and they got a bunch of buttons and they confuse the user. With a native integration, you don't have that. With a native integration, we get, for example, the full-size image. I don't know if you know this, but most X-ray sensors on the market, they are either 12-bit or 14-bit data, which basically means that you've got thousands and thousands of layers of gray, essentially, between white and black. In a typical 12-bit example, you've got 4,096 shades of gray. In a 14-bit example, you've got something like 16,000 shades of gray, okay? The problem with a Twain is that Twains are almost always, because of technical challenges in the way Twains work, passing an 8-bit grayscale image. That's 256 shades of gray, Bob. So how many shades of gray did you lose? thousands. You got a tiny fraction of the data that your sensor put out. Now, what happens if you go to filter that data? What happens if you go to apply your imaging filters so that you can perform better clinical diagnoses? It's not going to work as well, right? So the image quality is going to be worse. And this is just a couple examples of many, but a native integration is always better than a Twain. Now, we integrate natively with almost everything on the market. Some of our competitors like to say that they integrate with other sensors. Most of them, actually, there's only a couple that truly natively integrate with other sensors. Almost all of them are Twains. And so from the outset, you're starting with an image that is, you pay thousands of dollars for an X-ray sensor, and you're, as a result of using a Twain, getting a tiny fraction of the image quality that you could actually have.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Most of the times that the Twain integration may be okay for a scanner for documents, or okay for a camera even at times, right? But when it comes to diagnostic tools, you need as much information as you can get, right?
It's funny you raised the scanner, Bob, because I'm sure you know this, but Twain was built so that flatbed scanners in the late 80s and early 90s could communicate with computers. Think about the technology of a flatbed scanner in the late 80s with black and white scanning. That's what that was meant to pass an image from, not a high resolution, high bit depth dental diagnostic image. So Twain was not a good solution from the get-go. It's not a good solution today. You should be using a software that has a native integration with your sensors.
And you say that so easily, almost like they can go to Amazon and buy native integration. You guys have decades of experience building these relationships with the manufacturers and developing the software. Am I correct to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so generally speaking, in order to build a native integration with an X-ray device, in most cases, you have to have a relationship with the manufacturer. And sometimes that's one of the challenges as well, is that oftentimes the manufacturer of these devices are not the manufacturer that you see selling the device. Only so many companies in the world actually have the huge billion-dollar fabs to make these things. And the relationships there can be a little bit murky. But at the end of the day, not only is it a kind of deeper technical challenge, but it's also just a business challenge. There's many different ways to skin that cat, but it's another step that unless you're in the imaging kind of business, unless you're an imaging company, it just makes it that much harder for you.
I want you to not spend too much time on this, but make it clear for me what this FDA clearance with imaging is. There's some confusion out there. I'm not an expert, but I have helped another company do one of these FDA clearances. But I want to just understand what it is, and my audience can understand what it means when I talk about make sure these software companies also have FDA clearance.
So in order to be a Class 2 medical device that is legal for sale in the United States, you have to have a 510K clearance. Historically, anything that was displaying medical images or dental images for the purpose of diagnosis had to be 510K cleared. The FDA has made some changes now. Now, if you're not making either complex algorithmic or diagnostic measurements in that device, or if it is not controlling another Class 2 device like an X-ray sensor, it is a different category of device. For example, there's a lot of open source libraries and software out there that some dentist makes or some doctor makes or something, and they put it out there so that their kind of radiologist friends or their dental friends can use their like DICOM viewer. Today, if all you're doing is opening up a DICOM or opening up an X-ray and viewing it, that's not a medical device necessarily anymore, according to the FDA. What the FDA says now is that if you are integrating with devices, for example, so if your software, when you hit the capture button, is arming an X-ray sensor to be used as an imaging device, you are now controlling what is definitely a Class 2 medical device. And that makes, by its nature, your software a Class 2 medical device. The other side of this is that if your software is doing things to change the diagnostic efficacy, of those X-ray images, so things like filters, that's considered to be advanced manipulation of the image, which requires you to have a 510K, which generally means that you are going to be registering as a device manufacturer with the FDA. You're going to be going through your kind of normal FDA inspection process, et cetera.
Struggling with the pressures of private practice? Digapalooza is here to help. Hosted by Dentistry in General the first weekend of November in Chicago, this unique event features all-star speakers, recognized globally for their expertise, delivering carefully selected topics designed to give you actionable takeaways for your practice. These aren't your typical lectures. Plus, sponsors are handpicked to support independent dentists against private equity-backed offices. The learning continues beyond the classroom with insights from thousands of practices. Don't miss out. Early bird discounts are available now, but spots are limited and going fast. Secure yours at dentistryingeneral.com.
Okay. And then finally, the second change that the FDA made, besides the technical part of what constitutes a Class 2 device and what doesn't, is they changed some names. So it used to be that these things were referred to as PACS systems, PACS, that's Picture Archiving and Communication System. Now it's MIMPS, which is Medical Image Management and Processing Systems. So just a few changes that they made there, but that's the gist of it. There's an interesting question there that's underlying the clearance part, and that's company quality management system that has to be in place for the way that company does their updates to their software. So getting a clearance is not a one-time thing. That is a heavy requirement that the company has to maintain over the entirety that they're in business. Okay. So as a medical device manufacturer or a company that makes software as a medical device, you have to have a full quality system that complies with, there's this thing, FDA 21 CFR 820. Okay. And what 21 CFR 820 does is it outlines basically how you have to run your business to be compliant. So that means you have to have a CAPA system, a management review system, an internal audit system. You have to have procedures for every single thing that your business does, whether it be technical or not technical. Those things have to be audited by yourself on a regular basis and then inspected by the FDA, usually every 2 years or thereabouts. And so it's not like you go get your clearance one time. You can know that when you have a product that you're using that is FDA cleared, that company is undergoing routine monitoring by the FDA, which is basically ensuring that they're maintaining the quality of the system that they used to get cleared and release into the market over a span of time for just however long that they're selling that product for and they're in business for. A lot of people think, oh, you got FDA approval for the thing, you put it out into the market and it's done. No, it means that over time you can be confident in the product that you're using.
I'm going to ask you one more question on this. There are some people out there telling me, oh, this is just fear mongering and what can happen? It's not life or death.
Sure.
I don't know. My answer has always been you follow the rules, right? If you don't follow the rules, yes, a dental X-ray image is not brain surgery or heart surgery, but it is a diagnostic tool. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it's funny. As somebody who works in this industry and has to abide by all the rules, I can tell you that very oftentimes we don't like them. But it turns out that generally when people have responsibility, oftentimes people like to skirt that responsibility because responsibility can make us work harder. It can make us uncomfortable. It can give us heartburn when things aren't going the way that they should. But at the end of the day, we do have a responsibility as an imaging software company. And that responsibility is to make sure that our software is safe and effective and works well and that you as a dentist can treat your patients with confidence. Now, whether that confidence be in the fact that our software is diagnostic, or if the confidence is in the fact that if the FDA or whoever does come inspect your office, like you're using compliant software, you can pick your priority there. But at the end of the day, as an imaging software manufacturer that is a medical device, we have that responsibility. And it's just something that we have to do, something that we have to live with. And ultimately, the FDA has determined that's in the best interest of everybody, whether you're a doctor or a patient or a manufacturer.
And I want to ask you this. So you guys have that responsibility. What if the company doesn't tell you? Isn't it the responsibility of the doctors as well to make sure that the tools they're using are at least complying with the rules of the land?
I'll be really honest with you, Bob. I'm not a lawyer. I lead software teams that build the software. But I can tell you that as a dentist, if somebody was selling me a product that they knew should be cleared and it's not cleared, I'd probably be pretty disappointed in that company. But my take is that if the rule's there, we play by the rules. Sota Cloud certainly plays by the rules. I just think we just try to do right by everybody, and it is what it is. It's the right thing to do.
So to just clarify, if your software is taking the X-ray, it is integrating with your hardware. And if you are using these filters, it is considered manipulating the image.
I would say so, yes, Bob.
Can you show me how this platform that you guys have as far as Sota goes, how it can help dentists?
Yeah, so I think there's really a few questions built into that one question, right? We've already talked a lot about compatibility. We've talked about how we work with all the sensors and software. I think that really the next part of this is what are the things that you are doing with your images outside of just taking an X-ray and storing it on a server, because dental software has been able to do that for decades now, right? Mm-hmm. And really what it comes down to is you're integrating your system with other systems, or you're sharing your data, or you're troubleshooting your devices. It's interesting. One of the things about our latest releases is all around this stuff. It's all around how do you get your images from your system to other folks who need access to those things. Mm-hmm. And just as an example of that, we have a new referral system. That referral system makes it so that basically in 2 clicks, you can essentially share any images that you have to share, CBCTs, 3D scans, anything with any other dentist, whether they're inside of your organization and you're a group with lots of locations, locations, or if you're a solo and you're referring out to a specialist, it makes that process just extremely easy, easier than anything else in the market. That's one example. Another example, and this is where that deep history of working with all of the hardware comes in. We have a new module called Device Health. So we track every single imaging device that we've had connected to our system. We can tell you basically the full inventory of that. So that's really helpful in particular if you're a group. Even if you have 5 locations, you might have a few different X-ray sensors at each location of different brands. You'll have some cameras, you'll have some panos, and that's tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment. What happens when the assistant breaks something and like it gets shoved in a drawer and forgotten about? What if that thing's still under warranty and then you just don't know it's there until you find it 2 years later and you go, oh, I'm out of warranty on this thing now. Our system lets you know we haven't seen that thing in a period of time. Maybe you should look for it. Here's the last computer it was connected to. This is the last user that had it. We give you everything that you need to know to find the thing. Okay, that's one example. If there's an error on that device because it's not working the way that it should, we let you know and we tell you how to fix it. Okay, and that's for all of the devices we integrate with. And that's how we help you on the techie side. And then finally, really at the end of the day, it's people that are using the software. And not everybody's a technical person. I don't know if you've seen some of the software from the early 2000s when dental imaging started to become a thing, but it feels like up until now, really, it hasn't changed. And so if you, for the first time, are looking at a dental imaging software and trying to take an X-ray, I guarantee you, if you sit a new graduate assistant down at a computer and say, take an X-ray and don't tell them how to do it, they'll never figure it out. You have to tell them it's this button, and then you go to this drop down, and then you do this, and then it opens a window, and then you click this, and then it opens another window. Very complicated. Sota Cloud, it's 3 clicks. You click the big thing that says X-ray sensor, you choose the layout you want to use, and then you hit go. That's all. And there's many layers to how we help you, but ultimately at the end of the day, we help you run more efficiently. We save you time, we save you money, and we just give you a better experience, and we make it so that you can deliver better care to your patients.
What features in your software that will grab the attention of dentists? I know one that I tell people, you buy a software, you forget about what device you want to buy. Don't come and ask me what X-ray sensor I should buy. I'm going to tell you, pick your software, then buy whatever you want to buy.
So it's more than just the sensors though, right? So that's true. Okay, of course, but it's anything else too. Let's say that you switch your practice management. We don't care. We'll work with the new one. Let's say you switch your AI company. We don't care. We'll work with the new one. It's just a mindset thing. We are here to support you. We're not here to drag you down. So that's the first answer to that. The kind of secondary answer to that question is, from the very beginning, the way that we've built the software is to make it easier for you to do your job and take worry off of your plate. Okay. So let's just start with the fact that it's a cloud-based system. What does that mean for you as a dentist? That means that you're not having to worry about how much storage is left on your server. That means you're not having to worry about backing up your own data. That means you're not having to worry about compliance and security and privacy and all of the other things that go along with hosting your own server. I don't know if you know this, Bob, you can walk into just about any dental office in the United States today, pop a USB stick into the back of the computer at the front desk when the staff's not looking, and I have access to all of your stuff now. I can access your patient's records. I can access their social security numbers. I can access anything. When you're abstracting that away to the cloud, you're not responsible for that anymore. Just think about that. There's, even before you get to the actual benefits of the imaging software, as an imaging software, as a cloud system, inherently it's going to take away some of that worry.
Yeah. I also want you to tell me about the 2 cool features that you told me off camera, the CBCT coming up and this referral system that you have that I love.
February 1st, I think, is our official launch date now. We've set that in stone. So we will be bringing to market our 3D viewer. What that's going to include is all of your MPR views, that's your multiplanar quadrant viewer system, as well as a cross-sectional view so that you can generate a panoramic and get your slices along your mandibular curve and everything else, find your nerve, do measurements, 90+% of the things that you're doing with 3D. And the huge benefit of this is that it's instantly available at any of your computers in your office. You're not paying a license per computer like you are with the legacy on-prem stuff. We can work with data from any of the CBCT manufacturers, and it'll run on any computer. So whether that be like a 10-year-old thin client that you've got kicking around that's in that op that you never use, it'll work in that one. It'll work on an iPad. We can work on basically anything. So that's the 3D system that we're bringing to market here really shortly. And then the referral system basically takes all of your data. That's your intraoral x-rays, your intraoral camera photos, your panos, your cephs, your CBCTs. If you import your 3D scans, any of that stuff can get basically attached to a referral. Takes 2 clicks. It's really easy. Gives the receiver on the other end access through a secure portal where they can download that stuff in whatever format that they want, but they can also view it, do measurements, do filters, do all this stuff right there in that view. I talked to an oral surgeon a couple of weeks ago who saw how we're building this out, and he was like, man, I wish everybody used this because I don't want to have to download these 500 megabyte files and put them in my server where half the time they don't work because they're not compatible. And I end up taking a new CBCT on the patient, and that's bad for everybody. And then finally, throughout that process to help you, you get an AI generated referral letter. And we have messaging built into the system. You can communicate back and forth with the specialist in one place. It's all tracked. It's not lost in an email, and it's compliant.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the other things that is a pain point for dentists is switching software. You and I both know that there are imaging software companies out there that, in my opinion, are hurting the profession. What can they expect if someone is using an XYZ software and they want to switch to Sota? What can you tell them to put their mind to rest?
We convert just about everything on the market. Regardless of what system you have, very likely we convert it. I think right now we convert like 97+% of the market. There might be some really old or just really unusual systems that are out there we run into from time to time, but generally rest assured we convert everything. And the big thing here is there's some other companies that offer database conversions. Some of them are okay at it. Some of them are really bad at it. They don't convert really anything. In almost all of these systems, we're going to convert your layouts. We're going to convert your teeth numbers. We're going to match the filters that you had in those systems so that you're not having to go back in and refilter all of your images again within our system. And so it really makes that process really seamless. And database conversion is one of the hardest things to do as an imaging company. I think that's for these new guys that are starting up or practice management companies that are building their own imaging. That's the lesson that they're going to learn as they work through this is you're not converting text data like you are with a practice management. You're decoding images, and it's quite a bit more complicated, and there's way more data. You're talking sometimes terabytes of data for a practice. We're really good at that. We've spent a long time building that capability. It used to be that sometimes we might have your data for 2 months and you'd be waiting for a while. Actually, we spent almost an entire year completely rebuilding that process with a team of engineers. We are down to a couple of days, and we can start before you go live with the Sota Cloud software. So the short of it is what you can expect is basically you sign that purchase order and you set the date that you want to go live with Sota Cloud. We set something up on your server. It starts right away, takes 2-3 days to convert all your data. And before you've started using Sota Cloud, you can rest assured all your data is there. It's ready to go.
Great. Hey, I want to thank you for being here today. I have a little message for practice management software out there is that I don't know why they even want to get into imaging. Like your number one support calls are going to be for imaging. Your number one cost is going to be imaging. Why not just partner with Sota Cloud? And you guys do partner with a lot of different software out there, as you said it. Yeah, you guys are agnostic. You can go with any of the software out there, right?
Yeah, and we love to support those partners. We have a really good reputation with our practice management partners and with the like MSP IP partners that we work with. At a partnership level, we're dedicated to supporting those folks. And one of the things that we like to say to the practice management systems that are trying to do this themselves, at the end of the day, think about this from a business perspective. For every dollar that you're spending on imaging, look at the return you're getting on that versus what you'd be getting if you were spending it on your core competency. Right. And think about the experience that your users could be having on the imaging side that maybe they're not going to have because you have other things to worry about. You're a practice management company. It's like a dentist, right? As a dentist, there's the kind of the cliche, you're a dentist, you're a clinician, you're a business owner, you're a manager, you're a tech guy, like all the hats that you have to wear. Imagine if you could give up one of those things and focus more on your clinician responsibilities. You'd be a better clinician, right? It's the same thing with the practice management companies. If the practice management company can take a step away from the imaging, focus all of their effort on the stuff that makes a practice management company great, they're going to be a better practice management company. We'll handle the imaging. We're experts. That's what we're good at. And by the way, that doesn't just come with taking the x-rays and storing it. Think about the fact that when you're integrating with an AI company, for example, there's a lot of work in that, especially if you want to embed the experience and make it good. If you want to work with a claims company, there's a lot of work in that. So you're adding on not just the imaging part, but all of the other responsibilities that kind of go along with that for imaging. So that's the message to those guys. But I just want to say we wish everybody well. I do think some practice management companies have good imaging. I think it's just a matter of how you prioritize your resources and everything else, but we'd love to work with those guys.
Great. Thank you very much for being here. Hopefully we can do this again next quarter.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Bob. Thank you.
That's a wrap, but your journey continues at Digapalooza this November in Chicago. Presented by Dentistry in General, this event connects you with world-class speakers, sharing insights you won't find anywhere else, and delivering carefully selected topics to help you grow clinically and professionally. Early bird pricing is available, but spots are limited and selling quickly. Elevate your skills and expand your network. Visit dentistryingeneral.com to register now.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live event.